Hey everybody. So this is actually going to be a throwback discussion, I want to call it, because of the fact that I am discussing the film ZOOMAN, which was originally released in 1995. Now, the reason why I'm going back so far to dig up a film is, for one, theaters have been closed for a while, so a lot of new releases has not been released yet. Not to say there's not anything worth talking about from Netflix and TV shows. But the thing is, I really feel like this film has a lot to do with the same things that we are seeing even to this day. Like, all these years later, it's still the same issues. Speaking of issues, there's an emergency vehicle passing by, and you might can hear it in the background, you might not. But anyway, just kind of a heads up. But anyway, I'm going to read to you what the premise of this film is about. And I'm taking this straight off of Wikipedia. You can Google it too. So it says Reuben Tate is devastated when his 9-year old daughter is killed by a stray bullet during a gangland shootout. He is equally disturbed to learn that in the wake of the heinous crime, no one is willing to testify against the shooter, a petty thug known as Zooman, despite there being several witnesses. Frustrated by the apathy that surrounds him in his neighborhood, Reuben resolves to take matters into his own hands. Now, first and foremost, I want to say this film again was released many moons ago. However, I thought it was very relevant, and I'm going to discuss why. Now, the reason why I came across this film is because there is a YouTube channel by the name of The Real Black. That's REEL Black, BLACK. This particular YouTube channel does an excellent job with posting, I want to say, throwbacks from commercials to seminars to interviews to movies to television shows, if I haven't said that already, of the African American community. They do an excellent job with reposting these items online and leaving it up for their viewers to watch and kind of get either a sense of nostalgia or a reminder or see things that we never seen before and didn't even know occurred in the past. So I really, really enjoy this YouTube channel. I highly recommend, if you're interested, to subscribe to them. I totally support what they are doing. Now, the cast of Zooman includes Khalil Kane, who actually plays the Zooman himself. If you don't know about Khalil Kane, you weren't an 80s baby and you weren't born prior to the 80s, because Khalil Kane was like in most of the 90 gangster films. Then you have Cynthia Martels, who plays the mother to the 9-year old. Actually, I thought the little girl was 8, but the according to Wikipedia, 9. But I just watched the film. I could have sworn she was 8. That was killed in the film. Then you have Lou Gossett Jr., who played the father of the little girl. Hill Harper Pitt played the big brother. Charles S. Dutton played the godfather. And CCH Pounder actually played the grandmother. She was Lou Gossett Jr.'s mother, I believe. I believe she was his mother in this film. And then the cast goes on with recognizable actors and actresses. So here's what I took away from the film and what I believe really resonates with me and draws me to this film even today, despite the fact that this film was released in 1995. What drew me to the film is the fact that here you have this 8-year old little girl, the Wikipedia says 9-year old, and she comes outside because she's getting into it with her mom. Because what we learn later in the film by her big brother is that she likes to pick fights with her mother so that her mother can have to call the estranged husband, which is the little girl's father, to the house, and it would bring them together, because the little girl ultimately just wants her parents to be together. Apparently they're separated, still married yet separated. So the little girl likes to do things, act out, in order to get her mother to call on the father so that he can come back into the house. Well, this particular day she did just that. The mother said, "Oh, I'm going to call your father on you. You know what? Go outside with that noise. You're jumping around, making all this noise. Go outside and play." Who remember days like that where your parents tell you, "You know what? Take all that noise outside." Yeah, I personally don't do that because I don't feel like where I'm at, it's just not that kind of party. Can't send my children out there, at all. But anyway, so her mother tells her, go outside and play, as a little girl should be able to do. Little boy, little girl should be able to go in their neighborhood and play outside. nowadays, yes, under supervision, but they should still be able to play freely outside because they're children and that is their right. Well, the little girl went outside and she began to play, and as she did so, many neighbors were out moving about, stores was open, the just normal neighborhood day, things are happening, many people are out there. Suddenly, there is Zooman, who is this young, very young. I don't know if they mention his age in there or not, but he must be like a teen or something. I would say maybe 17, 19, 18. I don't know. He's still in school. We learned that he's still in school. So he's got to be around either a minor or maybe 18 or 19, who knows, but I'm getting a sense that he could possibly be a minor or on the brink of turning 18. I can't remember if they mentioned his age. However, I do think it's important not to gloss over the issues of Zoo Man, who is actually Zoo Boy, because of the fact that there are many like him in the community as well that feel like, they have nothing to live for, no one cares about them. They were dealt a rough hand in life, so should they care about anyone else? Throughout the movie, he referred to the girl that he ends up shooting as a bitch. So you could definitely see he tries to create a dissonance, or some sort of distance and emotions between what his crime and the little girl, as if to justify what he's done, as if her life is worthless, and also to soothe his own pain, because we definitely see he is experiencing pain. He's experiencing a conflict of emotions because he knows he took the life of a little girl. I think if it had been an adult female, maybe he wouldn't have cared as much. Maybe or in the course of an adult male, he clearly doesn't care because that's who he was looking to kill anyway. Which again, I'm struggling with trying to pretty much understand how old these individuals were, but I'm assuming they're very young, even the person that he was shooting at. So we know he doesn't care for adult life, let alone a child. But it seemed like he was struggling with trying to find ways in his mind to emotionally deal with the fact that he knew he had murdered this little girl. And the way he chose to deal with that was to remind himself of how life dealt him a rough hand and why he should not care about the little girl, because basically no one cares about him. Not to mention creating this image of the little girl in his mind that she's nothing more than another, than a bitch. So you definitely can see that, and I believe that occurs more than often in the so-called African American community as well, and not even just limited to us. I feel like that's what some people do in order to soothe their own conscience, to avoid dealing with certain situations. They make up in their mind reasons why they should not care to outweigh the reasons why they should care. But anyway, he spots another young man, or young boy, I don't know his age either, that he wants to shoot at. And I guess he said the next time he seen him, it was going to be on sight. So when he saw him, he immediately pulls out his gun and is super busy on the street. And he begins shooting in the neighborhood, just shooting recklessly out in the open, just shooting, aiming, but not really hitting the target clearly. So it looks as though the young man that he was attempting to shoot, he never shot. But what he did end up ultimately shooting was the 8-year old girl who was playing on her stairs, and it looked like she may have tried to get up to run away, but actually it looks like upon getting up to run away, she got hit and she fell down on the ground, and she did ultimately pass away. It's very difficult to watch this film. To sit here and say I recommend it, like I said, it's very difficult to watch. I'm not gonna sit up here and say I recommend it, because to be honest, it's difficult to watch. We have trauma like this going on, um just about everywhere in the inner cities or lower income or impoverished areas, maybe even not so much, maybe so much even in the lower middle class areas, also with in the black communities and black American communities. So with that being said, the movie really resonates with me, which is why it had my interest. But don't get it twisted. It was very difficult to watch the film because I do know that is reality. For some people, that is their reality. Heck, for us all, is our reality. It's just not necessarily happening directly close to us, but it is definitely a reality. And I think about the little girl. I hate the fact that I cannot remember her name right now in this moment, but I think she passed away about a couple of summers ago or so. She was killed on a street that I've actually used to frequent a lot. And she passed away due to gun violence. The bullet was not meant for her, but because it was some reckless fools just shooting at each other for whatever reason. She ended up getting hit by a stray bullet and she did pass. So with that being said, this kicks off the movie, and the father ends up putting up this sign on the window of the house where everything occurred, and the sign was basically holding neighbors accountable because he felt like it happened broad daylight. There were tons of neighbors and people that's in the neighborhood, like store owners and things like that. They were all outside. They saw something. That was his point. Someone saw something. Someone can identify this man, but no one wants to. So no one wants to say anything. No one wants to quote unquote snitch, and justifiably so, I would say, because of the fact that people were worried about retaliation. However, it is a double-edged sword, because it's like, okay, if it was your family, you would want someone to say something, but because it's not your family, you're not going to say anything. But if it was the other way around, you'd be pleading too. So everyone felt the neighbors felt the discomfort with the sign, because they felt like the sign was causing division, because the sign basically that the father put up for the neighborhood basically stated, like, these people are just, the neighbors are just as worse as the person that did it, because they won't tell who did it. So stepping back on that alone, I've been thinking about the whole situation with Takashi 69, the rapper Takashi 69, being released from jail, and how his popularity is tremendous right now. How his album got on whatever chart, made it to whatever number, how he's making all this money and got a lot of support, especially in the quote unquote Black American community. And it's interesting because we know he is a self-proclaimed snitch. He isn't evidently a snitch. The whole story is no secret. Everyone knows, who follows him or who may follow hip hop culture, knows what he did. You don't even have to follow it closely, and I'm sure at some point you've probably heard what he has done. And yet he is still put on a pedestal with some of the people in our community. I'm not going to say all, but there are, some people in our community. And I often find myself sitting back wondering, is it because he's not black? Is it okay for him to be that way, even though he snitched on black men? I'm curious to know, does he get a pass because he's not black? But with us, we scream Black Lives Matter, but I think when it comes to people who look like me, some of us, we feel like we are not valuable. So I think it's a little easier for us to attack each other in scenarios like that. I think when it comes to retaliating against one another, it's just a lot more easier. Kind of like when there's a crime that happens between two black people, where I'm from, it seems as though retaliation is not given a second thought. It just happens. However, when it is white people that's killing us, or when it's police that's killing us, retaliation is null and void. It's now we want to turn to the justice system. Now we want to rely on the justice system. We want to beg the justice system. We want to plead Black Lives Matter. But, we don't think twice about killing each other. We don't think twice about, if someone snitches, even for a just cause, such as little kids being killed by these people, by certain people in the community, you better not snitch. You better not say anything, because they're coming for you if you do. But it's like, well, hell, you took out a damn child. You deserve everything you get and then some. I'll be damned if you sit up here and say I can't say anything. So it's a crazy, it's a crazy it's a crazy reality. It's a crazy reality, which is why I feel like this movie is so relevant for today. Also, another reason why I feel like this movie is very relevant for today. Okay, so going back to the sign before I get too sidetracked, going back to the sign. Now, mind you, the father put up the sign holding everyone in the neighborhood pretty much accountable, saying that the neighborhood pretty much is just as bad as the person that killed his daughter, because no one won't tell who it was. The neighborhood was very furious. They began attacking the family verbally, as well as someone threw a brick or something through the window, and was even attacking the father physically. And coming to him, pretty much doing a neighborhood intervention to the father and the family, on the sign, saying, we get it, you're grieving, but take the sign down. It makes us all look bad. So they were more concerned with their image. They were more concerned with looking good than bringing to justice the little girl's killer, which made me think a lot about the value that we place on Black lives as a so-called community. Now, the interesting thing about this is that I think this was New York this was supposed to be in or something. And this is a little black girl who was killed, but the community was very much diverse. You know, you had the Puerto Ricans, you had the African Americans in the community. So it was a diverse setting, but I feel like because the little girl was black, you know, they that perhaps maybe that contributed to the fact that they were trying to be dismissive of it. See, the thing is, it's about what you're willing to stand for, what you're willing to die for. And I feel like with the little girl, you know, what their argument was, no one wanted to come forward and give a description because they were worried about the safety of their own life. So what I was hearing with that is she's just simply not worth me risking my life to bring her killer to justice. She's not worth my death. You know, that's what I was hearing. And you know what? To each their own. I can't tell someone, hey, you know, you should go put your life on the line for a little girl's life. But at the same time, when does Black lives really matter? You know, it does it only matter when white people are killing us? Does it only matter when police are killing us? And we're talking about a child here. We're not talking about an adult. We're talking about a child here. And again, I know you're probably thinking this is just a movie, but it's not. How many times does things like this happen? And here in Cleveland alone, it happens so many times where these children are being caught in the crossfire. The bullet was not meant for them, but they keep being caught in the crossfire. And I wonder how many people actually say something who knows something. And you know, again, does Black lives only matter when it's police killing us or when it's white people killing us? Last but not least, I want to say this. Another thing that touched me about this movie. Well, just this weekend, just Sunday, I believe, a little 8-year old, which is probably why I'm getting the age mixed up, a 8-year old here in East Cleveland, Ohio, was shot in the head by a stray bullet. Now, allegedly, a 17-year-old, I believe, was arrested in Warrensville Heights, Ohio. So the shooting happened in East Cleveland, Ohio. Warrensville Heights, Ohio was not that far. But the 17-year-old, I believe a 17-year-old male was arrested in connection with the shooting. So I believe it is being alleged that he is the shooter. They have not released the pictures, but I'm just going to step on a limb and say that possibly they are African American. Possibly. I do not have confirmation of that because pictures are not released. However, given the locations, I'm quite certain they are, but I guess time will tell. You know, nothing's 100%. My thing is just simply this. Again, if it does come out that they're African Americans, when are we going to address the elephant in the room? When are we going to address the elephant in the room? I would love to see the same energy that we have been placing this entire time since George Floyd's death, his murder, the same energy we've been placing on police killing black people. I would love to see the same energy placed on black people killing black people. And I know people don't like to hear black on black crime. I don't care what you define it as. Define it as intracultural violence. Define it as close proximity violence. Define it as black on black crime. It does not change the fact that you have many of us, male and female, who constantly are trying to say, I am more fearful of walking out my door and being killed. Not even having to walk out your door nowadays, because we know damn well straight bullets come right through the damn wall and window. So we have more of us that are openly saying, listen, I'm more worried about losing my life from one of somebody that looked like me than I am the police. I don't have an encounter with the police every day, but folks that look like me, yeah, those encounters happen every day. And it don't even have to be meant for me. It could be beef that someone has with someone else and the bullet just happens to come my way because it keeps happening more and more and more and more. And so now we have this 8-year old child who was shot in the head from a bullet that wasn't even meant for her by basically another child who was 17 years old. So that is the reason why I wanted to cover this film. My only question I propose is, does black lives only matter when it's police and white people killing us, or does it matter when we're killing us as well? I don't care what you call it. I'm not worried about how you define it. What I want to know is, what do we do about it? When do we hold the individuals accountable? When do we do away with the narrative of snitching? When do we create our own police? Because since we want to defund the police, since we want to get rid of the police, well, let's say we do that. Then who do we call when Black women are experiencing domestic violence from their partners. Who do we call when our brothers are being shot and killed by our other brothers? So are we thinking this through, or are we really just, I don't know. I don't know what is what. Like when does Black Lives Matter? And this definitely brings me back to the film Zooman and the way that, you know, this little 8-year old girl's life was pretty much disregarded out of fear because people were afraid, to step up and say something. And had it been their family member, the energy would have changed. So does our life only matter if I'm not just, I don't get it. I can't even make sense of it. I can't even put this into words. The things that I'm seeing. There is an Instagram page that I like to go on every now and then, that posts a lot about what is happening in Cleveland. And if someone passed away, unfortunately, they do post that individual who has passed away due to violence and sometimes non-violence, on their page. And they post some things, like, for example, this post right here, in regards to some suspects and a carjacking and things like that, right? And I think a car had been turned over. And then someone in the comment section, and this isn't the first time this happened, someone in the comment section goes, "Y'all be dry telling though." Like, I guess saying y'all be dry snitching, or y'all just snitching, or, something to that effect. And then someone goes on to agree with him. But my thing is this: if it's your family member who car was jacked, if it was your family member who was robbed, if it was your family member who was harmed, you would want someone to quote unquote dry snitch. The only person who would have an issue with snitching is if they ass was the suspect. So I'm not understanding, when does Black Lives matter? And who gets to actually determine when it matters? So that's it. It's very interesting how things from many, many years ago, even further back from 1995, is still very much relevant today. And sometimes I sit back and wonder, have we really made progress, or is life just truly cyclical? Until these issues are truly, truly exterminated, I think life is just pretty much cyclical, and these issues will still be around. But my personal opinion, and as I see others are fearlessly saying, because when you stand on the side of saying, listen, do Black lives really matter to people, or is it just like for sport that we go out and scream Black lives matter when police kill us or when white people kill us? So when you have someone that stand on the side and say, well, what about black on black crime? Where's y'all energy for that? And then someone wants to shut you down on that and come up with excuses as to why this isn't the same thing. Oh, it's not the same thing, but at the end of the day, yeah, it's still a black life being taken. So my question is, or my question, my scenario, whatever you want to call it, is, does it matter, or does it not? Do our lives matter, or does it only matter when we feel like making it matter? Do we feel like our only savior is white people, which is why we go in the street screaming and begging them, march with us, believe in us, our lives should matter to you too. But I personally feel like once we decide our lives matter, and we show that our lives matter by respecting each other, respecting each other's differences, because we're not the same. God, Lee, we're not the same religion, skin tone, hair texture, we are not the same, and that it should be perfectly okay. As long as you're not hurting somebody, that should be fine. So when we start showing that we respect each other, that we will not tolerate violence against one another, we will not tolerate violence against our children, we will not tolerate violence against our men, we will not tolerate violence against our women. When we start showing that intraculturally wise, then I feel like interracially wise, we'll have nothing to defeat us. Nothing to defeat us. We don't even have to worry about saying Black Lives Matter, because people will feel it. But until we take accountability and start showing it amongst one another, I'm having a hard time believing that anything will change. So that's it. If you've seen this movie, let me know what you think in the comment section about it. I'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.
Hey, listen, man. Listen, man. Hey, listen, man. Hey, you love me, man? Do you love me? Have I been there for you? Have I committed my fucking life, man, to this work? Have I committed my life to this work, man? I've committed my life to this work, man. And we are fighting against structural racism, fighting against racist cops, fighting against that. And then we see this type of shit, man. Let me tell you something, man. I'm talking to all my young soldiers, and you tuned in, and you've been reaching out to me, and you've been calling me, and you've been like, yo, Bashir, what you want me to do? Hey, listen, I'm about to tell you what I want you to do right now. Don't ever tolerate nobody raping our women. Don't tolerate nobody raping our babies. Black lives got to matter to black people, man. Okay? There's a new code of conduct in Cleveland. We ain't tolerating that, man. We ain't tolerating that. And I'm sending a warning to every person. I don't care who you are, man. Listen, if we willing to die, you know what we willing to live for. I'm telling you what needs to happen right now. If anybody, brother, they drag our women, they beat our women, okay? Now listen, be clear. I know that there's sisters. I know that there's sisters who, you understand what I'm saying? I ain't talking about that though. I ain't talking about that. I ain't talking about that. What I'm talking about is abuse. You beating the women in the street, man. You beating the woman in the street. You rape our daughters. You rape our sons. You harm our people. You do that and you think it's going to be okay? The same energy and strength that we show towards these racists is the same energy that we show towards black on black crime. Yo, and I'm talking to these young guys out here, man. You shooting up neighborhoods. You don't give a damn about if there's babies around. You don't care if there's elders around. That shit ain't gonna be tolerated no more, man. Now, I know that there's street stuff. There's street things I don't get involved in. There's street justice I don't get involved in. I don't get involved in that. But damn it, you're not gonna shoot up a spot where there's babies, man.